Hi guys, it's Grandpa. Gonna read some more out of our Poppy book. Today though, before we get started, there's just a couple of things that you need to know to understand our story a little bit better. In our story, we're going to meet a porcupine. A porcupine is an animal. We don't have any in Missouri. There's none in California. But there are some that live in northern Minnesota. So for those of you that live in Minnesota, there are actually some that live up there. If you wanted to find one, you should go out into the woods and probably look for something like a dead tree that's on the ground, because that's kind of where porcupines like to live. They like to live in hollow logs. They can also climb a tree, but they're usually on the ground. A porcupine is about the size of a large cat, except it has a very flat face, and it has a long tail, and it has big sharp claws. But the most interesting thing about a porcupine is it's completely covered from head to foot with these needle-looking things about this size. And if another animal or a person tries to attack the porcupine, it can make all of its needles stand up. And if the animal attacks the porcupine, the needles stick in that animal and poke them, and then the needles come out of the porcupine's body, and those needles are very, very hard to get rid of once they poke into you, because they kind of look like this. This is what the pointed end of they call them quills. This is what the pointed end of the quill looks like. When that quill pokes into an animal, it's got a barb on it. Here you can see the barb. And the barb means it goes in, but it does not want to come out. So if you get poked by one of the porcupine's quills, it does not want to come out. It wants to stay stuck in you. And the porcupine has quills all over its body, so all of the other animals leave it alone. It's an animal that nobody messes with. It's not a fighter, but nobody wants to get quills stuck in them. In our story today, we're gonna come face to face with a porcupine. All right, we're going to back up just a little bit, and we're going to read just the last bit of chapter 10 that we finished up, because when we left off, Poppy is being chased by a fox, and the fox would love to catch her and eat her. And here's where we left off. Poppy stood trembling before the log. Every instinct in her body warned her, do not enter that log. When she looked back, however, the fox was almost upon her. There was no time to waste. She dived into the log. The fox stuck its nose in after her, its barking becoming about Poppy like a cannon. A fox kind of looks like a dog, and it can kind of bark and yip like a dog. And that's what she's finding out. Trying to get away, she moved deeper into the musky dark. That means it stinks in there, and that it's very dark. Suddenly, she stopped. At the far end of the log, she could hear the distinct sound of heavy breathing. It was exactly what she had feared. There was another creature already in this log. Hastily, she turned toward the log opening. She never reached it. The fox's red tongue and his sharp white teeth were in the way. Poppy started back into the back of the logs. Darkness. The breathing and the rattling were now drawing nearer. She was trapped. Chapter 11. In the darkness of the log's interior, that means inside the log, Poppy crouched tensely. Slouching slowly out of the darkness came a flat-faced beast with a blunt black snout, that's its nose, and fierce grizzled whiskers. It had whiskers. Its eyes were... Trillian, go away. Mom, would you get Trillian? Its eyes were heavily lidded, as though it had just awakened. Mom? Trillian, go away. Go away. Its eyes were heavily lidded, as though it had just woken up. The creature moved ponderously with kind of a waddle and a rattle. Its stench was powerful enough to make Poppy clap a paw over her nose. It stunk. It smelled. The moment the animal caught sight of her, it came to a clumsy stop, and it blinked. "What the bee's butt are you doing here, furball?" it snarled. Poppy, wishing she knew what kind of animal she was facing, could only whisper, "It's just me, sir." "The name is Eureth," the animal snapped. "Eurethazon dorsatum, but I just get called Eureth. And what's more, I'm a grump, and you just woke me up, so don't try to slick me down with some slug slop." "I'm truly sorry I woke you, Mr. Eureth," Poppy said. "What are those things on your head?" the beast growled. "Are those flat balloons or are those ears? The name is Eureth, Ereth, and stop your barking." Please, Mr. Eureth, it's not me that's barking." "Well then, who the flog flip is making all of that racket?" "It's a fox at the entrance to the log." "Is he some idiot friend of yours?" No, sir, he's not my friend." "Well, who the dung beetle bit are you, anyway?" Eureth suddenly demanded. "You're so small I can hardly see you." "I'm a deer mouse. A girl deer mouse." "I didn't ask you what you are. I don't give a bee's bathwater about that. I asked you for your name." Poppy."
"Poppy? What kind of an idiotic name is that?"
Please, it's a family tradition. We're all named after flowers and fruits."
Eurethazon dorsatum is my name. Latin name. But you kids don't learn Latin anymore, do you?
"I don't even know what Latin is, sir. I mean, Eureth." The beast sniffed loudly.
"The whole forest is full of idiots, like that fox."
Well, during this conversation, the fox had continued to bark and whine, occasionally even digging furiously at the log entrance.
"Pop, fop, snop," Eureth cried, "or whatever your idiot name is. Would you tell that stupid fox to shut up?"
It's Poppy, sir. And if I tell him, I don't think he will."
"Why not?"
He wants to eat me," Poppy said.
"Eat you?"
"Yes."
"Jerk,"
Eureth said scornfully.
"But then all meat eaters are jerks. You ever notice that? I mean, did you ever meet a meat eater who wasn't loud and aggressive? Did you? Never mind. Just get out of here and leave me alone."
And at the bottom of this page, we have a picture of this. At one end is the fox. He's down here. And he'd like to eat Poppy. And little Poppy is stuck in the middle. And down here at this end is Eureth, the porcupine. We're on the next page.
"Just get out of here and leave me alone."
"I can't."
"Well, why the bat bilge can't you?"
"I just told you," Poppy pleaded. "If I go out, he'll eat me."
"Look here,"
Eureth cried.
whatever your idiot name is. Don't you have any guts?
Please, it's Poppy.
Oh, weasel wonk. I don't care what it is. All I'm saying is, if a creature can't take care of himself, he has no business sneaking into my house, waking an old coot like me in the middle of the day and asking for my help.
I never asked you for your help, an exasperated Poppy replied. Can't you understand anything? That fox chased me. Do you think I like being in here with you? It stinks in here.
Yourith blinked. Oh, all right, he growled. I suppose I better talk some sense into that meat mauler. Just get out of my way, he snarled, and he began to waddle forward. It's your lookout, not mine. If you get poked by one of my quills...
Poppy's heart stopped. Did you say, quills? She stammered.
Of course I said quills, fuzzball.
Yes, but...
But what?
Poppy was dizzy with fear. Her knees shook. She found it hard to swallow. What are you?
Don't you have any eyes? Yourith shrieked. Or are those spots on your face buttons? I'm a porcupine!
Porcupine? The word turned Poppy numb. She could hardly breathe. She could not think.
Floppy or ploppy, Yourith bellowed. Will you get your flea-flicking self out of the way?
Poppy dived against the pulpy wall of the log and squeezed herself flat against the wall to allow Yourith room. Even so, as the porcupine waddled past her, his quills raked across her belly like a rusty comb. Never, despite all of the things that she had ever confronted, had Poppy ever been so terrified. Yourith, however, continued to make his way towards the log's entrance, where that fox was still barking and yelping. Poppy felt sure that once the fox was disposed of, that means was dead, the prickly monster would then turn on her. First, he would probably shoot her with his quills. Next, he would probably stab her. Then he would skewer her, means he would poke the needle right through her. Finally, he would chop her into little tiny bits and eat her. For a moment, Poppy considered offering herself to the fox. If the choice was between being swallowed in one gulp by the fox or being tortured by this porcupine, surely death by the fox would be preferable. She would rather have that happen. Poppy stared into the darkness of the log. Perhaps there was an escape hole in the back. But frozen by the terror of her predicament, she could not move. Instead, her eyes turned towards the entrance, certain that she was about to witness some ghastly carnage. That means she thinks somebody's going to die. Sure enough, when Yourith reached the log opening, Poppy heard him screech out, "Fox! You braying bag of bones! What's all this hullabaloo? Can't an old creature get some quiet in his own home?" "Oh, I'm sorry, Yourith," Fox returned in a voice that was at best kind of sniveling. "I apologize. I didn't know you were in there. Just trying to grab a mouse who ran into your place. You know, kind of a snack. Nothing more. Not trying to bother you, Yourith. No harm meant. Just a little midday nibble is all." Nibble is a snack.
"Don't you nag me about your nibbles, you nitwit," Yourith bellowed. "When I say get lost, I mean do it."
"Now, Yourith, let's be..." But Fox never had a chance to finish his sentence. Instead, Poppy heard Yourith cry,
"I said Get, Broomtail!
And this order was followed by a whack, a yelp of pain, and a frantic scrambling of paws, concluding with a barking and a whining that grew fainter with amazing rapidity. Means he quickly ran away, but in pain. Poppy was sure that that fox was being devoured, being eaten. But more frightening still, she saw the porcupine turn around and start to waddle back down the log in her direction. Poppy panicked. She turned and ran toward her one hope of escape, the log's back other end. The further into the log Poppy went, the more foul-smelling it became. Worse yet, she had increasing difficulty seeing where she was going. It was dark, and sure enough, she slammed into the log's back end. There was no escape hole. Stunned and unsteady on her feet, her heart beating so fast she was sure it was going to burst, a terrified Poppy turned to confront the porcupine. Her one remaining hope was to try and slip past the beast. Though Poppy knew that she risked a severe shredding, she was certain it was her only hope.
Slop! Pop or be-hop! The porcupine cried. Where the snake's sweat are you? Come out of there!
Gasping for breath, Poppy braced herself against the rear wall of the log and got ready to run and die. Ureth's face, grinning hideously, loomed out of the dark at her.
Poppy, he cried, you wretched excuse for a runt! Why the devil are you hiding in my toilet?
And that's the end of chapter 11. We're going to stop there. It's getting pretty exciting, huh? Come back and we'll start the next chapter. See you later.